And let's go live in a few seconds. So today, one of the things I really would love to talk about is how to migrate and what you can actually do when migrating. Let me just mute here myself. I don't want to hear. So yes, today's topic is automation of migration and what you can actually do there. So thanks for joining. If you have questions, do put them into the chat and let's get started. If I can see where I'm at, it's always a good thing. So I don't want to go here yet. I want to go here. So we have obviously been working a lot with migrations. How do we automate? What is it that we can actually do with these artifacts? And as a part of the migration, message mapping has a huge value for anyone that is involved in this. And how can we actually automate some of these things? And I guess most message mappings, or a lot of them, and at least the ones that has a lot of value, do have a lot of function libraries. So the more you can reuse of those, the easier it becomes to migrate, the easier it becomes to handle the full flow. And this is what I want to cover today. Questions, put them into the chat or comment section. I really appreciate that. Or if you're watching live, I'd love to hear you. If you're watching a bit later, I will also hear your comments, thoughts on it. I think it should be a lot easier now to see what is going on. But let's get started. How do we convert it? So the way we do it, and obviously you can do it also in different ways, we just try to simplify the process, is that you can take the UDF, in the UDF there's a, in the PI object you can export the XML that is actually using. I guess you can also take in the NetWeaver Developer Studio the artifacts there and do some kind of a conversion on it. We just did it from the simple query or from the mapping objects, exported it, and then we can actually do it. And then we will take the code, migrate it and convert it and see if there's actually something that makes sense and if we can actually migrate some of these things into it. And then we link it into the message mapping. There's a few comments you need to do to link this. And yeah, recently we tried to map the B2B mapping kits, and that added a few more iterations, and I think that is some of the ideas and challenges I will be sharing today. Questions, comments, put them into the chat, and I'll try to cover those also. Cool. Future, obviously SAP is working on this, and they do have a roadmap item to enable you to migrate function libraries. What it looked like and how to deal with, I'm not sure. And obviously we need to see what this looks like. But obviously this would be a huge importance that you can take these artifacts and import them and reuse them in multiple mappings. Because I guess the main thing you want to achieve with this is to reuse these in all the mappings that you're using. So there needs somehow to be links with these artifacts. So I'm really looking forward to see how these will do it. And obviously if they'll be using Java or Groovy to deal with these things, because if they use Java, it creates some challenges. If it's Groovy, it'll be some other challenges and a lot of the same ideas. So right now I'm only looking at the function libraries or the Groovy things. I know that there's also the option to have your message mappings, and in your message mappings you have the option to have local functions. They also migrated correctly, and they seem to be working, so it seems like they have the correct setup and framework there, and they are compiled somehow into some Java setup. They do have a container object, some of the things that the other object is complaining about, but it is more complicated to update these scripts because you can only do it in the UI, and also yeah, maintenance, these kind of things, and there's anyway some of the same problems that you need to resolve here. So one of the things that we found is one of the things that is missing is all context value is not supported. It has the values of a queue, and the only way you can actually spot the difference is if you are looking at the data and seeing what is actually going on here. Then you would be able to see that there is a difference between it, because in the Groovy you can only define it without any differences in it, or it does not have that overloaded value. Another thing is the global container, and I think that is probably a bigger problem. I think for the value of a queue, it is important, but I would reckon that it is only, I don't know, you need to be pretty good to create these full queue functions to actually do something. So yeah, it's not something that happens too often. Global container and container, that one is a bit different. And the way we did it is we used the context get properties from it. And obviously a lot of the things you do have in the global container is dynamic attributes, these things that makes it easier to manage the flow. How do you handle this? Yeah, so, and I think in the container you have the option to do something that is local in this instance of the invocation, or of where this function is used, so it's not spread across different areas, but only in that specific queue. And then you can have the global, where you have objects that is available to all places in the mapping that is using that one. And obviously you need to be a little more careful about those objects, what they need to do. So obviously if you have something that needs to be for that specific object, you probably need to, I don't know how to deal with it, create a specific parameter or function that also takes some of this into place, or just move it into a global parameter. And I think maybe that is one of the things that makes it a little easier, because you can essentially, we haven't tried it, change the setup here and maybe in the setup in the mapping, and then it will work. But yeah, be careful. I guess. But yeah, this is where you need to do a lot of manual work to go through and set up these things. Actually, a question: have you actually been doing something like this? Try to set up and run these scenarios. I think this is important, and I know there's different workarounds that you can do. Export the jar and import it. I think that is something that I've also heard about. Yeah, dynamic attributes, we did talk about that even though we would be able to use fetch the data, it would anyway, or use the dynamic attributes, it would anyway be different, because it is two different scenarios that is needed for this to work. So yeah, or fetching data and how you collect what's the correct data, you need to find that in a different way. The result list object, we can see that this is a missing one. So the result list, and the way we normally see that in here is we have it up here, we have the result list, and from that we can add attributes, these kind of things. It also have an option where you can say, okay, and I guess this is if you're doing the more advanced functions, you can use these, check if the value you have is equal to suppressed. And also when you're sending out data to it, you have the, here I guess it is add ResultList add suppress, or you can add just the constant that is called ResultList.suppress. We have just replaced it with these. I think that is, well, a decent way to deal with it. It's not ideal, but I think it is a way that will enable you to deal with these things and make sure that it runs. And if we just do a replace, I think there's context change suppress and a null object, and you can find the value of these things. Then it is pretty easy to just add it for these things, and then you have the output, which is the new CPI flow object that is being used for these things. And obviously it makes sense that this object is changed, but it would just be so much nicer if we had these small constants that we could use. But this is also an excellent way to it. Actually, I think that the result list also is a static object that you can extract and use in the content. One thing we found is that in Java you can add a $sign inside or in your text string, and that works really well. In Groovy, if you have like a function where you have content dot or a $sign into it, it will try to replace that with a variable. And that is something that can cause some problems, both in the compilation or whatever it happens. And we found that we needed to escape these ones and trigger those processes. So yeah, that was something we could do automatically. There's also something about the different languages and the way you're presenting things. And here we have a switch content with cases. I'm sure there is different ways that you can deal with this. And this was what we found was, well, now it's just there. Probably it will cause some problems. We'll probably need to rewrite the specific one so it will work correctly, and at least, yeah, it will be possible to simplify this code a bit in Groovy. And I think that's probably the main reason why you want to deal with something like this. And you could add it to array. There's a lot of different ways that you could fix this, an array hash map or hash table kind of values for these things. Questions? Just put them into that. I think that was the last thing I wanted to go over, and now let me just see if I can actually show you some of this code. So here we have this is the Git repository that we do continuously update whenever you're migrating content or using the FIGAF DevOps tool. This just makes it a lot easier to manage the code that you have. And here, if we look at this, I don't know if I can actually zoom here. Does it have a zoom? That would be nice. Find. Okay. Yeah. So just, I'm not sure if you can actually see any of this. Just need to zoom in here, where you can see this is the function libraries that we are creating based on the PI input. And you can see here we have the result. We have then the context object, which was then previously container. And yeah, from time to time we will need to go through this and update them. Once you have migrated it once with the FIGAF tool, it would remember that, and so next time you migrate it, it would remember that, and you do not need to go in and deal with these scenarios anyway a second time. I think obviously so here we can see we add in this suppress these different values. So obviously it is important when you're going through this to also be testing these changes, because some may seem like it is not really a problem, where it is just something that is easy to do and simple to set up. But at some point in time, or maybe it is using specific imported archives that is causing problems, and then having the test case and being able to run and just, okay, this works, this really simplifies this process. So I hope you enjoyed this short session, giving you a little bit of insight about how we can automate some of the things with migrations, and that you can actually keep the value of your function libraries. I think that is the important things. The mappings, you can still reuse them. Obviously, from time to time, it would make sense to start over. There is someone, I have seen developers that have created mappings that were not ideal, and those would definitely be places where it makes sense to let's change it to something else that is easier to manage and handle. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click the like, click the share, and if you have other questions, something you'd like to see in, then I would love to hear that. Thanks for the comments. I will continue creating some of these things. I do enjoy the format, making it easy to ramble about some of the things that we have found. So thanks for watching. And if any questions, comments, just put them into the chat or ping me or whatever, reach out. And obviously, if you want to try migration, go to the FIGAF migration tool, try it out and see how it works. I think that was what I wanted to cover today. Thank you. Bye.